So just a few hours ago, the San Antonio Spurs and Toronto Raptors have agreed to a trade with Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green going to Toronto for DeMar DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl, and a heavily protected 2019 first-round pick. Now this trade is actually pretty fair for both sides, and I really like it for the Toronto Raptors. At first, when I saw that DeMar DeRozan was traded for Kawhi, I was a little bit hesitant because I thought OG Anunoby might have been part of the deal, in which case that would have been pretty bad for the Raptors. However, he was not, and instead it was Jakob Poeltl and a heavily protected first-round pick, which will probably convey, but it will probably be around 25 to 30. Now, of course, DeMar DeRozan was the Toronto Raptors franchise player, but it was pretty clear that they couldn't win with him. A team with Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, OG Anunoby, Serge Ibaka, and Jonas Valanciunas is not nearly enough to make it to the finals, let alone win it. However, with the additions of Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green, they might be the favorites in the East. Personally, I still have them now at second place, ahead of the Sixers, yet behind the Celtics, but it should be a good conference finals matchup between the Celtics and the Raptors, and it will probably go to at least 6 or 7 games. Now, of course, Kawhi doesn't want to be in Toronto, but if he doesn't show up and if he doesn't participate in the games without a legitimate reason, usually a medical reason, then he could actually be fined and disciplined by the team. So it's pretty safe to say that he will be playing for the Toronto Raptors this year. Now, I understand that, of course, he doesn't want to be there. He's probably not going to resign there. But if he does resign there, then the Toronto Raptors got so much better. They get a, a new franchise player in Kawhi Leonard and one of the best players in the NBA today. Now, they also get out of DeMar DeRozan's contract, and I know it wasn't a bad contract by any means, but it was, I think, about $28 million for the next 3 years, which significantly limits their financial flexibility. They also, with this trade, got closer to a rebuild because if Kawhi Leonard leaves in free agency next offseason, which I think he will, almost all of their players will be on 1 year deals. Jonas Valanciunas will have a player option for 1 year, which is worth $15 million, which he's going to accept. Kyle Lowry will be on a 1 year deal, Ibaka will be on a 1 year deal, and CJ Miles will also have a player option for about $8.3 million, which I do think he will accept as well. That means they could probably trade a few of those guys considering they're on expiring deals and get some assets in return. One trade that might happen, probably not, but still could, is Kyle Lowry to the Timberwolves in a trade package centered around Jeff Teague, Gorgie Jang, or Taj Gibson, and a few of their young guys like Tyus Jones, Keita Bates-Diop, or Josh Okogie, or a first-round pick as well. I mean, that trade does make some sense for both sides. CJ Miles, of course, is a good bench piece, and for 8.3, it's not the best deal, but it's not bad, and I could easily see him getting traded for a young piece or a couple second-round picks. But they could just keep all those players, and then when their contracts all expire in the next year, they're going to be a awful team, which is good for them. They'll get a very, very high pick in the draft, and even if they keep all those guys, the first year they'll probably get the 10th or 11th pick with a team of Kyle Lowry, CJ Miles, OG Anunoby, Serge Ibaka, and Jonas Valanciunas. I don't think that's a playoff team by any means. And of course, that would just really help their rebuild and would make them one of the worst teams in the NBA, which of course means one of the best picks in the draft. Now we get to the San Antonio Spurs. Like I said, I like this deal for both sides, and I like it a lot more for the Spurs, although I still do, of course, like it for the Raptors. The Spurs got DeMar DeRozan and Jakob Poeltl and a protected first-round pick for Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard. Last year, the Spurs were the 7th seed and were only a couple games out of that 3 seed without Kawhi Leonard essentially for the whole year. Now, they added DeMar DeRozan, Lonnie Walker, and their young guys like Dejounte Murray and Derek White have another year of development. And they did lose Tony Parker and Kyle Anderson, but I still think they're going to be much better than last year. I think they'll easily make the playoffs, especially with Greg Popovich. And I don't know if they're going to be a top 4 seed and, get home court advantage. They might, but I don't think so. I think the West is just too tough. I could see them get the 4 seed, however, behind the Warriors, Rockets, and Lakers just because of how good of a coach Pop is and, how good he was able to make LaMarcus Aldridge. However, I could also see them getting a bottom 4 seed, but still, though, I think they might get the 5th or 6th seed and could easily pull off a first round upset. Now, the one thing I don't like about this trade for the Spurs is that it significantly limits financial flexibility for them. Of course, as I said, DeRozan's on a 3-year deal with about $28 million annually, and the pieces they got rid of, Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green, are both on 1-year deals. Of course, Kawhi is a player option that he will decline. This trade also means that the Spurs are going to remain competitive for the next probably 10 years. Of course, in the near future, with a core of DeMar DeRozan, LaMarcus Aldridge, and even Pau Gasol and Rudy Gay, they're probably going to make the playoffs for at least until LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan are free agents. At that time, Lonnie Walker, Deontay Murray, even Jakob Poeltl, Derek White, and Bryn Forbes are all going to be fully developed and probably have an average age of like 25 and entering their primes, and they'll probably be maybe not enough to be in the playoffs, but I think with another piece, they'll be enough to be in the playoffs. Now, similarly to the Paul George trade, I don't think one team necessarily won this deal as they both got better. Although, if I had to pick one, it would probably be the Spurs. I mean, considering Kawhi was never going to play for them, they essentially got DeMar DeRozan for Danny Green. All in all, though, I think short term this trade is great for both sides, and long term it at least helps the Raptors, and I think it does help the Spurs a little bit too. Now, thank you for making it to the end of this video. Leave a like if you've enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and comment down below who you think won this trade.